What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Stocks by the Numbers. Wanted to do another quick update video as per request. Someone asked me about Palantir, so I wanted to take a look at it since we last looked at it, which was about four and a half months ago, was the end of December. So, Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR, listed here on the New York Stock Exchange. Company right now, $7.56, down 3 cents, about 0.4% on the day. As we see here, since we spoke about this company, it has hit a new 52-week low, sub $6, down at $5.92. I personally said this was like a $4 stock or a $5 stock, if memory serves correct, and we pulled into the fives. I have some projections here, but basically overall, this company, they provide software, basically like government software. Well, they started out with governments. Now they're moving into, a bunch of other clients. A lot of other Fortune 500 companies now are utilizing their software. And listen, overall, not knocking the company, right? New company, as we see here, came out 2020, had a big explosion up to about 45, and has since, been pulling back and bouncing around. A lot of the quarters coming in, a lot of the revenues, seem to be some decent beats here and there. However, overall, I do just feel that it's still just overvalued here. The company's still losing 18 cents a share, which isn't really a big deal, but it's the market cap that catches my eye. I mean, almost $16 billion. And again, I know the last couple of quarters, as we see here, we went from like the low 400s, 432 million, 446, 473, 477, 508. So the revenue is slowly growing. They were profitable. They had some net income positivity here for Q4 of 22, and again, not bashing the company overall, but looking at the numbers here, bringing in less than $2 billion for the year, and you have a market cap of $16 billion, right? So the company's trading, random beeping, the company's trading over 8 times yearly revenue looking back to 2022. So that's why I'm saying I'm not bashing the company, and I'm not saying it's not going to go up over time. But in this situation, it really does have to keep coming down, and it has to continue falling back down to earth to become realistic here. And if we look at these long-term trend lines here that I drew out in the orange, going all the way back from inception here, from the lows and from the highs, we can see that we are forming like a long-term descending wedge that we may potentially, eventually, pop out of, running through like the first half into the second half of 2024. However, again, as we see here, they got to bring the stock down to, the high fours or the low fives. So since we looked at the stock, which was right here, this candle right here, December 21st, and as we see, we bounced down, and then we basically just rallied all the way back up to north of $10, and then it pulled back to about 7 and has since been bouncing around. And if we draw out these trend lines here, we're in a symmetrical triangle, which technically, again, is not defined, and it could be either bullish or bearish. However, in my opinion, we have earnings coming up here on the 8th, estimates of 4 cents on the EPS side and a little over 500 million on the revenue side. And honestly, the company might beat on the top and bottom lines. And even if they do beat, at the end of the day, they're still undervalued. So I have a feeling that it's going to bounce around, and when it hits this apex here going into these earnings, they may even run it up to the top of this range here, and you can see like 8.5 perhaps. You could see 8.5 on this short term. It looks like, it's just bouncing off this bottom trend line. However, again, overall, I personally believe it's overvalued. So even right now, if Wall Street wants to break it out of this bottom trend line and begin breaking this triangle to a downward pattern going into these earnings, I would actually agree with that. And even if the company beats earnings, they still deserve to go down, I feel, in my opinion. So again, these are just my projections. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. If you're long on the stock, again, I'm not bashing the company long term, but as of right now, these companies come out and they overvalue themselves, and that's all it comes down to. When we buy into the hype, the story, we buy into, some product or service that they're bringing to the table that they're saying is going to change the world. And again, they're saying a lot of companies are going to start utilizing their software, and the list of clienteles has been growing. And as we see, the revenue is growing as well, going from the 300 millions into the 400 millions, and now we're into the 500 millions. So the company is on par with a growing company, right? That they have excellent growth here, especially on the revenue side. And again, the last quarter coming in above EPS expectations. However, overall, again, $16 billion company brought in less than $2 billion last year. So that's why I'm saying they really need to bring this down like here. Bottom trend lines here, as we see, this would be the low fives. And if it bounces around here, we're talking around Christmas of this year. So you can come down to about 460 and change, 470 maybe, and that would hit the apex. But again, this would really just be a technical pattern, right? Because if they maintain this 500 million and close out the year, let's say, right, last year they did 1.9 billion. So let's say for 23 they finish 2.3 billion. Yeah, it's excellent because revenue has increased year over year, right? So that's a good sign. However, overall, it would still be overvalued at 2.5, even 3 billion in revenue. So that's why I'm saying, technically this is one of the stocks that should either go down or really just kind of remain flat for a while. It will probably break out of this falling wedge. But again, the numbers, the revenue has to really increase to justify the market cap of this stock. Because again, right now at close to 16 billion, a little bit rough here. I still have STEM going on here right now. My apologies. We'll pull up Palantir real quick. As we can see, the company, the stock recently came down below the 50-day and the 200-day, so it's in this bearish pullback pattern here. We're seeing a support of 723. That's why I'm saying, like, it could bounce, but it technically could break out of this triangle now going into earnings. If Wall Street, agrees with me and they feel that it's overvalued. The RSI was at about 37 over there. And actually, I didn't look at the MACD. Yeah, see, MACD has just been pulling back and selling off in the last several weeks. So I have a feeling that even if the company beats earnings, I have a feeling that the stock is going to be weak going into and even after earnings, even if it's a beat. It looks like the MACD is about to cross here on the weekly to the downside. Next support level $1.95. I don't think it's going to get that low, but see how it's like selling off, chunking down, hitting lows, bouncing, selling off, chunking down, hitting lows, bouncing, right? Selling off, look, riding the wave, boom, hitting lows, bouncing, selling off, riding the wave, going into earnings, hitting lows, bouncing, right? You see how I kind of work that one out there? We can pull up the Bollinger Bands here. Let me see what the Bollinger Bands are showing us. Yeah, see, we have some tightening. Closed here 756. Here it is, what's today? Wednesday, right? Yeah. And our mid-Bollinger Band is 772. So, again, it could bounce off this low and come back. Look at this fib right here, 779. You know what I mean? So we could have some life here. However, in my opinion, I do think that over time it's just going to keep selling off and it's going to hit new lows. And as much as you may not want to hear it, it technically may be justified. As you see here, just for the last couple of days, just kind of riding this bottom Bollinger Band. Now it's widening this formation here instead of tightening it. So, again, anything can happen. They could keep it flat for a week, and then if they beat earnings, again, they can pop it back up into the 8s and maybe even 9 to the top Bollinger Band. But in my opinion, it'll probably just reject. See, we have a high here and a high here. See, that's our trend line here. So that's why even coming out here, that's why I'm saying even if the company pops up, they could reject this trend line at 820, 830, and then just continue selling off and pulling back and hitting new lows. But again, in the long term, we do have a bullish pattern forming. However, it's going to be bouncing around going into 24. And as you see, we have the potential to hit new lows and not really break out or do anything crazy here. To the 8s, maybe we can break up at a time and pop up to 9 and change, and they'll most likely pull it back and bring it back into this range. So that's why I still say, Palantir, decent company, decent idea. I support it. The problem is these companies come out with these ridiculous valuations. They don't have the revenue to back it up. And again, it comes out, it's an IPO. Everyone jumps in and thinks they got the next Amazon, Microsoft, and then it just slowly starts to sell off and pull back down to earth. I bought this on IPO day. I had a cost basis of $10. And as we see here, within a couple of weeks, the stock was $30 and $40. I mean, ridiculous. You want to talk about free money. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that. And then the whole time, even though it was bouncing around, this whole time, I was saying, I know I didn't have the channel up, but this whole time I was saying to myself, this is a $5 stock. Everyone should be buying puts. Everyone should be betting against Palantir because it is just way too overinflated. Even at 10, you're talking 50% higher. So at $10 where it IPO'd, you're looking at a market cap. I mean, look at that. You're looking at a market cap of like $23 billion. And then they come out and they post earnings and they bring in 200 million. You know what I'm saying? So I understand the hype behind it because it's a new company and everything like that. But, men lie, women lie, numbers just do not lie. And Palantir, I think, unless a big name takes a position or, they sign some big ass client or they got to sign a deal, they got to bring in like another couple of $100 million in revenue to justify this valuation. Otherwise, it's just going to be new lows and stressful trading days trying to time the pops and the drops, which is something I wouldn't advise. I would advise personally to find something a little more concrete, a little more solid, where you can really determine, okay, now it's going to start pulling back, okay, now it's going to start rallying. Something like Palantir, I feel it's either going to go lower or just be undetermined here. But kind of wanted to try to cover all bases and cover all potential opportunities. But overall, yeah, I think in the long term here, it's going to suck for about a year. But, I do think over the years, especially if they keep growing their revenue little by little, all of a sudden, everything is going to line up and it's going to become a brand name company. I really do believe that. And I'm going to end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Just like everyone on YouTube says, like the video, thumbs up, helps out the algorithm, helps me get more eyes on the channel. Subscribe to the channel, means a lot to me, watching the community grow. But moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, and they're volatile, and they're uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for stopping by. I'll catch you guys in the next vid.